Welcome to the Busy Guy Show. My name is Vince LoCascio, and I'm a busy guy. I've got Juliette Looye. She's a Feng Shui practitioner, consultant, author, and instructor on the subject. Jewel, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be
busy.
here. Thank you.
Thanks for squeezing time in of your schedule for us here. Am I pronouncing it correctly? First off, your name and Feng Shui?
My name is Looye.
Looye?
Mm-hmm. And Feng Shui kind of rhymes. Feng Shui, yes, you pronounced that really well.
Okay, I've been practicing all day. I'm trying here. You've been doing this since 1994.
94. 20 years.
How did you get into that? How did you get started with that?
You know, it's an interesting story. I worked in a high-rise. I was a freelance writer and editor in a high-rise at Evanston. And our cubicles had half-high walls, and so we could see what was going on with everybody. And there was this girl, and she just kept walking around her cubicle, moving things around. And every time I walked past her cube, she was doing something, you know, tweaking a plant, hanging in a wind chime. And I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Well, you know, I can't tell you unless you give me 9 pennies in 9 red envelopes." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." And I just kept walking. But I had to walk past her cubicle like 10 times a day to go to the elevator and stuff. And so one day when she was actually standing on her desk, everybody could see her. I just walked up and was like, "Okay, if you can't tell me what you're doing, can you tell me why you're doing it?" And she said, "Well, you know, I really hate my job, and I'm doing something to get out of here." And I said, "But you can't tell me what it is." And she said,
So standing at the desk helped.
"Well, yeah." And she said, "Well, you know, if you really, really have to know, and you can't give me those 9 pennies in the 9 red envelopes, go down the street to the Chinese bookstore and find a book. It's called Feng Shui. I can tell you that that's what I'm doing because I want to get a new job." I said, "Okay." So I went down to the bookstore. The man there didn't speak any English, and I obviously didn't speak Chinese, so I just went, "Feng Shui?" And he pointed me to like the one major book at that time, Interior Design with Feng Shui. And I took it home, and I was leaving for a trip to go visit my mom in Florida. And I read that book from cover to cover from the time I got on the plane until I came home again. And it was like, I totally get it, and I get what she's doing. So when I went back, I said, you know, "I get it, I see what you're doing now, and I have an idea for you. My ex-husband works for our competitor, and he's the head of his department, and that was the department that she worked in."
Did you give her the 9 pennies in the red envelope?
I didn't. But you know what? And I haven't seen her.
Later, she still owes you.
I haven't seen her in 20 years, but if I knew where she was, I would definitely give her those 9 pennies now because okay, first of all, I got her the interview with my ex. She got the job. But she didn't know it, and neither did I at the time, but she got me a job. And she got me a completely different way of life, a different lifestyle. And so I would gladly give her those 9 pennies because in red envelopes, that's a sign of respect, and it's an energy exchange.
So what might make sense later as we get into it a little further, it'll explain why she got this job and everybody lived happily ever after, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you have a good sense of humor about doubters and confusion about it. Because in the beginning of one of your books that we'll talk about later as well, it says, in your quote, "Another Feng Shui book, who cares?"
Yes.
So what type of training did you do? You went out to get trained in this subject?
I did. Right after I got into Feng Shui from my coworkers, you know, interest, I had my house done. And I held a little handheld recorder and followed the people around the house. It was a wonderful couple, Paula Lund and Gunn Hollingsworth, and they were my Chicago, not only my practitioners, but they became my teachers. And I was just walking around the house with my little recorder, like listening to every single word they said. And from there, I decided, you know, I have to do this. It's more than a hobby. I embraced it. It's more than a hobby. I have to do this. And so I found a teacher who lives in Berkeley, California, David Daniel Kennedy, and he wrote the book Feng Shui for Dummies. He was actually writing it while he was my teacher. And I studied with him for 3.5 months. It was such an intensive mentorship that I didn't take any freelance writing or editing jobs through that 3.5 months. We met 3 times a week by phone, and then I had a weekend personal conversation with him, you know, outside of the group, and that's how I studied.
So does one get certified in
I became a certified practitioner, yeah.
Okay, so what is it? I mean, we'll go into it, but what is it and how does it work?
Well, in a nutshell, first of all, Feng Shui, Feng, F-E-N-G, means wind, and Shui, S-H-U-I, means water. And together, those two words, I envision them in my mind's eye like, you know, these gently blowing breezes over beautifully flowing water. And it kind of creates like a little heaven on earth. That's how I think of it. And it just sort of makes everything right in a person's world.
That makes me want to go to the bathroom. They're so relaxing.
At least I don't have my fountain running. People are like, what is that? But it's a way of looking at the world and studying your surroundings and then arranging and adjusting the energy of your surroundings in order to create a peaceful and supportive environment.
Okay, and so why do people need it and request it?
Well, they request it. It's interesting because all of my students and clients to date, in the last almost 20 years now, they request it when they have a change of mind about what matters in their life, because it's the thoughts and the energy of the thoughts that create the change. And when we focus on what matters, it literally becomes the physical matter with which we surround ourselves. So they come to me and they're like, you know what, something's not working here. I've changed my mind. So let's change my physical matter in order to remind me of my intentions to change my thoughts about things. So it's kind of a chicken and egg thing. It's the thought changes the matter and vice versa.
So you do consultations, you go to people's homes.
I do, and businesses.
And and there's a thing called the bagua map.
Yes.
That we're going to talk about. And as we go through the, explaining how the map works and how you would, you know, go through people's house for the consultation here.
Okay.
So we're going to take a look at the bagua map, and then we'll walk through the steps.
Okay.
And each one is broken down into certain categories. I don't know if you want to start with which ones and tell us a little bit about it.
Okay. The bagua map. First of all, bagua in Chinese, ba means 8 and gua means sides. So it's literally a translation for 8 sides. It's an 8-sided diagram that we superimpose over a home, a room, or a plot of land in order to find its 9 life areas, which are called guas. And so the first thing I do before I do anybody's home or business is lay that bagua map over a scale drawing of their main floor. And then I locate the front door first, and then based on where the front door is, I can then locate all the 9 life areas. And the first 3, like, it's hard to do this, you know, while it's standing up, but if you were to imagine the first 3 being the ones right outside the sidewalk, right outside the front door, those 3 guas or life areas, knowledge and self-cultivation, career and life path, and helpful people and travel, those 3 guas hold the energy that helps us get things off the ground, get started in life. They literally and figuratively represent our connection to the outside world because they're the closest to the sidewalk and the street. And so if the energy can come through the front door, the mouth of qi, as we call it, because in Feng Shui, doors are mouths, if the energy or the qi can come in through the front door and circulate smoothly and sort of meanderingly through those first 3 guas, which is the front of your house, right inside the front door, then things have a tendency to get off the ground. We can get things started. We can get relationships started, projects, ideas. And then if they can get to the middle 3 guas, which is family and ancestors, and then health in all areas and children and creativity, those middle 3 guas, that middle part of your house, that holds the energy of getting things developing and growing, and it represents your support system. And then if the energy can move through the front to the middle all the way to the back, the last 3 guas being wealth and prosperity, fame and reputation, and then marriage and relationships, those 3 guas hold the energy of taking things to fruition, completion. You get the big payoff, and it comes in the form of financial compensation, a good reputation, and strong relationships. So I look at all of those life areas, not only individually, but how they interact and interplay, and the energy interplays with all of them.
Okay, I will ask respectively. Now, somebody is not a home, they've got an apartment. The same type of thing applies?
Absolutely. You could even do just a room in your house using the bagua map. Orient yourself wherever the doorway is. Find out which gua it falls in. It's always one of those front 3. It's always knowledge, career, or helpful people, and then go from there.
Okay, and then what about if there's a 2nd floor or 3rd floor, whatever the case may be?
Different schools practice different things, but in the school that I practice, it's kind of like you slice it like a layer cake, you know? And so whatever on the ground floor is career, right above it is also career. But different schools do it different ways.
Okay, so now you've come in and you said, okay, you make suggestions, you what do you tell them after you've laid down this map and showed them how the house is laid out and what it represents? What do you do from there?
Well, before I ever get there, I do a bunch of work. It takes me days. And I do take the scale drawing that they've created, lay the bagua map over it, and then I study it according to their goals and intentions, which they send me in advance, to see what kind of energy the house has, if there are any kind of imbalances that are keeping them from achieving their goals and intentions, or if there's something happening that's really supporting it. I do a write-up before I even get there, and I talk about whatever imbalances I see, how I would recommend curing them, as we call it in Feng Shui, adjusting them, tweaking them to make it, more harmonious. And then when I get there, by the time I've gotten there, I've done hours and hours of work. When I get there, we do a tour through the home. They show me things. They tell me, this is my favorite room, this is, and I watch their energy and I listen to their words as they're moving through as signs of, a lot of times their language is figurative, but it's actually telling me, like, I hit a brick wall in my career. We'll walk into the house and there's a brick wall right in front of the front door in the career area. So I watch for all of that, and then we talk about the energy of the home together.
And something we haven't touched on yet, but I know it's in the books quite a bit, is about clutter. What do you want to say about clutter?
What do I want to say? Oh, here, okay. Everything we own, whether we see it on a daily basis or not, we are attached energetically to everything we own. So if you imagine, just having like little strings hanging off you with all of your stuff and just trying to walk through life, that's a really compelling reason to get rid of your clutter. And for some people, it actually means when they really start going and do ruthless purging on their clutter, they actually lose weight.
Really?
Yeah. Because it's just energetically speaking, the more clutter we own, the more it weighs us down. And often when it's clutter that has an emotional attachment to it, it weighs on our minds, it weighs on our hearts, it keeps us stuck in the past, all kinds of things. There are lots of compelling reasons for getting rid of clutter.
We used the word a couple times, so it's weighing you down. And if you get rid of it or clean it up, then you're...
It literally and figuratively will lighten the energy of any space. I spent the weekend going through my file cabinet in my office. And as I was going through and tossing things, it was like, oh, well, that idea doesn't even serve me anymore. That group, I don't even belong to them. And so ideas, beliefs, things that don't represent who we are in the here and now moment, I got rid of all of it. And I actually went to bed feeling a whole lot better that night. Like, I really moved a lot of stuff out. And I made space for new things to come in. And this is a really exciting time in my life, so it was really appropriate to do that. I often do my clutter clearing when I'm trying to make space for new opportunities, new people, new situations.
That quote did jump out at me in the book.
Yeah.
It said to get rid of old stuff to make place for new stuff.
Absolutely.
And I call it stuff because I'm the king of stuff.
Stuff, that's good.
What is, we'll just go through a couple of, you called it your glossary, but words that you talk about, what they mean, then we could come back to. But what is chi?
Chi is the life force energy that flows through and animates every single thing there is. Everything in nature, everything there is. Everything has its own form of life force energy.
Energy is the big And then about commanding position, which we'll come back to later.
Commanding position, it's applied to the bed, people's couches, their desks, the power pieces of furniture in a home. Typically, we talk about it in terms of the desk or the bed. Being in a commanding position puts you as far away from the door and out of sight so that you can see what's coming at you in life, figuratively and literally, and have enough time to respond to it appropriately.
Well, it's talked about quite a bit in business or even in movies. You'll see when the guy walks into the big boss's office, the boss is up in a higher desk and he's like facing you. And, and that's kind of tied into the commanding position. And New Year's blessing, which we can talk about later as well. But what is that? What can you tell us about that? And not so much New Year's, but it's also, you told me that it can be used for a new moon. Yeah,
would you like me to
please
explain this? I made this pot, well, bowl. And for us, for my husband and I, we're going to use this bowl as our blessings bowl at the new year, but you can also use it, if you want to use it all year long, on every new moon, because they say that what the new moon promises, the full moon delivers. And so these little parchments could be your new moon wishes. I set intentions. Adrian and I, my husband, Adrian Looye, we set intentions every new moon. So we could take these little parchments and write our intentions and put them in here in the new moon and then watch what happens between the new moon and the full moon. This happens to be our New Year's Eve to New Year's Day blessings bowl. We started a ritual for ourselves last year whereby we write out, you know, everything that happened, everything that we feel fortunate about, abundant about from the current year, but things that we want to release we also add. And so those would go in the parchments. And we start our ritual at 11 p.m. on New Year's Eve, and we finish it at 1 a.m. on New Year's Eve day, because first of all, the time between, you know, the switching of night to morning is very transformative time. Also, from 1 year to the next is a transformative time. So we start by talking about everything we want to release from 11 to midnight, and then right around midnight we burn everything. And then
that's what I was going to ask you. What do you do with these?
We burn them, and then from 12 to 1, we set new intentions. We write them down. We make new lists, and we talk about what we want to welcome into our lives in the new year. It's very transformational. New moon to full moon is also very transformational. So you could do it on your birthday, the eve of your birthday. You know?
Interesting, very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have another item you can show us is the money pot.
The money pot. I'm actually giving this away tomorrow, so I'm
Look
so
at that.
excited. Yeah.
It actually has money in it, ladies and
Yes, it
gentlemen.
has 9 bills. The money pot is, I create these. You can do it on any solstice or equinox, but since we're so close to the winter solstice this year, it's on the 21st this year, the money pot is...
Equinox. Remember that
the
movie?
equinox. No, I don't.
That was their commercial. Equinox. Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well, the equinox bowl, the money pot, is if you want to create it for the winter solstice, for people who don't like to celebrate the holidays in a commercial kind of way, but want to do something, this is a great thing to do. The money pot, the whole idea of it, it's not a piggy bank, it's not a coin jar, it's not anything we just keep throwing our pocket change into. It's very deliberate, and it's done with intention, and there are 9 bills in there. They could be any denomination. The number 9 in Feng Shui, as well as numerology, suggests completion, achievement, and perfection. So there are 9 bills in there, and we put them in on the solstice and set our intentions for what we'd like to do, remember, accumulate, any goal or intention we have. And then on the next equinox, which is the spring, the vernal equinox, you give your money away. It could be to an organization, a person, it doesn't really
you empty it out.
You give out the 9 bills and then replace them again. And the whole idea, there's a real, like a procedure for this, the opening to the pot, which doesn't have to have a cover, the opening must be narrower than the base, because as you put your bills in, you have to remember, it's to set the intention that I'm so wealthy I can afford to be generous. And what comes to me goes again. You know, what goes around comes around, or it's the whole flow of, in and outflow of money. So when you put them in, it goes to this bottom part, which is wider, and it's like a reservoir. It's to remind you that, oh my gosh, everything I invest in just keeps growing and flowing and returning my investment. And so that's the whole notion of giving away and replacing the bills.
And there was a quote that I was fascinated by. It's a Chinese proverb. A bit of fragrance always clings to the hand that gives roses. Pretty impressive. So it's good to give.
Absolutely. It's all about giving and receiving. Absolutely.
Let's move on to a big subject that comes into play, whether it's clothing, decorating, is color, or chakras, if you want to talk about it for a bit.
Okay.
And what I also found interesting is it talked about each color, if you want to just touch on each one, but it talked about when it's needed and how you can use it too much as well.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we use color because it represents one of the elements of nature. Feng Shui is first and foremost about taking the elements of nature and bringing them indoors to create the same balance that's found in nature. So colors represent various elements. So red, for example, represents fire. Black represents water. Green represents wood. White represents metal, and yellow, orange, earth tones represent earth. So those are the elements and the colors that represent them. I watched you on the phone while we were starting, and you had a turquoise phone case. And I was like, oh, I'll tell you about that one. The color turquoise, the vibration. First of all, every color vibrates to a particular electromagnetic frequency. And so the vibration of turquoise, specifically turquoise, supports oration. The color blue is for the throat chakra, the energy center in the body, the throat chakra. So, you know, sky blue is the throat, green is the heart, and when you bring them together and you speak your heart to groups of people and in an oratory kind of fashion, the color turquoise is what supports that. And so you have a turquoise phone. How's that?
Because it was the only color left I could purchase. But well, that's very interesting to know.
But see, now you have an intention.
Yeah.
Whenever you're on the phone and you look at that turquoise, you can remember your intention to speak your message to the world with your heart, through your heart.
Okay, we'll come back, but just touch on what chakras are.
Chakras.
So colors related to different parts of your body.
Yes. We have, people typically think of 7 energy centers in our body called chakras or chakra. They start at the base of the spine, and it's red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet.
Roy Jabiv.
Yes, it's the colors of the rainbow. Absolutely, yes. And believe it or not, every color of every chakra color has resonates to a particular musical note. And if I were a musician, I would like play them and see how it sounds. But
interesting.
Yeah.
So now, instead of, you know, like say you come along and you tell people, okay, this room, it's suggested would be nice, you know, would help for energy in red, blue, green, whatever the case may be. Instead of painting the whole room, redoing the house, I believe you have what you call tools and cures.
Yes, that's a fabulous question, thank you. Because
I'm a fabulous guy.
A busy fabulous guy.
And I'm humble too, yeah.
Some people don't like some of the colors. Like, for example, the wealth gua or life area of the home, the main color is purple. And I have clients who are like, I really hate the color purple. I refuse to put purple in there. Well, the cool thing is that you don't need to have it visible, number one, it just needs to hold the vibration of purple. And it doesn't have to be, you know, you paint your walls purple or you get purple chairs or couches. You can either use a crystal, like an amethyst, or something that is naturally purple. You can put it under a chair or, you know, hide it in a drawer, or you can use some sort of cure that has the color purple in it, a piece of artwork or...
It just needs to be there.
Yeah, just needs to hold that vibration. I don't have a purple crystal, but I do make these crystals, and I do have purple ones. So these
and they are available. I mean, if people wanted to contact you, we can talk about the website later.
Yeah, they're on my website.
Okay.
This one, of course, is for family and ancestors because the color is green for family and ancestors. But if somebody doesn't want to like paint their walls and make something all green, they can use these crystal cures. And the faceted crystal sphere has a gazillion uses. So I could... And
tell us too about jewelry. I believe you're wearing something as well.
You know, it's interesting because I started making these crystals as a way to help people add the color of, you know, the energy and the color in their home. And this girl took it and she was like, make me some earrings. And so I was like, well, okay, I'll try. So that began my jewelry, my line of jewelry. And I started with earrings and bracelets. And I'm wearing a bracelet that is black for career. This is onyx, and the vibration of black is very grounding and stabilizing, and so it's for career. But I do have crystals and jewelry now.
And then what are a couple other tools we read about in the book? There's chimes, mirrors, and bells. Not that they're tied together, but what can you say about those?
Wind chime is a wonderful thing to put in the wealth and prosperity area because the unofficial element is wind for wealth and prosperity, and so the chime blowing in the wind makes a pleasing sound, calls in more money. We empower our cures, and sometimes we use Om Mani Padme Hum, which is it's called the 6 true words or the 6 true syllables. And I had a classmate who used to always say, "Oh, money, pad my home." So when she would hang her wind chime outside her wealth gua, she'd be like, "Oh, money, pad my home."
Pad my home.
So, but wind chimes do that. They also cure if you have 2 corners of walls that come together and they shoot out and make poison arrow chi, hanging a wind chime or a faceted crystal sphere in front of them deflects and diffuses that energy.
Okay, nice. Now also it can be used not just in homes, but people consult you for businesses.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they consult you for it yet, but schools and restaurants. I mean, a lot of public places are getting into the
Yes, I've
Feng
done
Shui
several
type of
businesses. The
energy.
process is exactly the same for a business or a residential area. The needs are often different, but the process is the same. Schools, I have a whole talk that I do to teachers and students. I've spoken at various universities, and I've talked to teachers about how to feng shui a classroom for maximum harmony and maximum productivity. And it's just really cool. We talk about lighting, scents, using scents, wearing colors. I actually did a talk once to a university class, and they were just about to have their midterms. And I said, well, you know, the color blue supports calming down and opening your mind and taking in information, and the color
What you
yellow.
want the kids to do.
Absolutely. And yellow is a good color for memorization. It supports memorization. So I was like, you know, wear blue or yellow t-shirt or whatever. So they decided to split the class in half, and half of them were going to wear something blue, and half were going to wear something yellow, and they were going to see how their test scores were.
What we have on up here now is quickly, because we're running short on time, but it's about if your office, as we talked about earlier, it's called commanding position. So basically, what having your desk facing is people coming into your office?
Yeah, you know, the last thing, it's unfortunate that cubes are set up the way they are, because usually it puts somebody, their back to the door. And I know when I worked in a cubicle, at that one place especially, anybody who came up to my door would startle me. So putting oneself in a commanding position turns you around, and again, lets you see who's coming in enough time to anticipate how to react appropriately. So the desk, put in a commanding position in the office, it's a power position.
But it helps. So
Absolutely.
that's what it should be. So what about, I had it quickly, but what about food and music? You talked about music, energy, vibrations, and all that kind of thing?
All, you know, every musical note has again, that energetic vibration and resonance. And so, you know, depending on your mood or your needs or your intentions, certain music works better than others. There's actually music that has hemisync vibration. It's a hemispheric synchronization that takes the two lobes and synchronizes them.
Hemispheres of the brain.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are running out of time, but if you want to touch briefly on Akashic records that you do.
Briefly.
I know it's a tough position to put you in. But
well, you know, it's okay, because the Akashic records, okay, so Feng Shui is about the external environment. The Akashic records, I do Akashic record readings, and I'm a teacher of the Akashic records. That's about the internal environment. And so as I started to say before, it's like a chicken and egg thing, you know.
Oh, I'm sorry. I gotta take this call.
Okay.
Hello. Yes. Yeah, I'm trying to throw clutter out. Yeah. As soon as I finish the show, I'll throw something out. Bye. Bye-bye.
As long as it's not me.
Yeah. No. Sorry about the interruption.
That's okay. That's okay.
But Akashic Records, if they want information about it,
yes,
they can contact you on your website, which is fengshuitransformations.com. And along the busy way, Julie's written a book here called Evie's Adventures. I'll hold it up right here quickly. But that's available on the website as well.
It is.
And also the book Feng Shui Essentials.
Yes.
Well, I can't tell you, thank you enough for being on the show, as is the custom for you.
Thank you. These are going straight to my mom, my Italian mama.
Hi, Mom, and hi, Adrian. Thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure.
I know you're a busy lady.
Thank you.
And fengshuitransformations.com. All right, Joel, I'm so sorry I got to go.
You're a busy guy, I get it.
Thanks for being on the show. Ciao.
Ciao.
I got to go work on my feet.
There you go. Get an adjustment.